So let's face it, AAA games sometimes can feel a little samey, like they were all kind of made in the same big factory. And don't get me wrong, I mean, I like playing AAA games too. I'm really looking forward to Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 coming out soon, and Avowed. And I'm no stranger to the odd Call of Duty round when I need that adrenaline fix in between other games. But when I want something different, that's when I play indie games. And I've played a ton of indie games recently. Some of them bad and some of them pretty good. And today I wanted to kind of share with you the weirdest indie games that I've played. I mean, bizarre in the sense of weird visuals, weird gameplay mechanics, weird humor, or weird narratives. Sometimes we get bored of playing the same stuff over and over, and I've dived into the weirdest corners of gaming. And so today I'm going to share some of the games that I found that are very different, but still very interesting and worth your time and worth your money for sure. Let's start with the weird narrative. Let's kick things off with Norco. This game is a point-and-click adventure, but it's not like the quirky ones you grew up with. Instead, Norco drops you into a dystopian Louisiana where oil refineries rule and people are living in economic and existential despair. What really makes Norco weird is how it blends its grounded, deep human story with these unsettling sci-fi elements. One minute you're talking to a bartender about life on the bayou, and the next you're caught up in this bizarre cult conspiracy involving some sort of mysterious artifact where everyone is literally named Garrett, and their leader is a guy called Ditchman who actually lives in a ditch, and he's being manipulated by this AI app which is controlled by a mutated duck. And they're looking for this divine artifact that is supposed to bring back Jesus or something. I can't actually remember exactly what the story is because it's so strange. But yeah, there is some religious allusion there for sure. It's not just the story though, it's the way it's told. The writing is sharp and it's poetic, and obviously it's absurd. And there's a lot of deadpan humor in the dialogue too. It's really unsettling, but it's also brilliant. It pulls you into its world and then it doesn't let go. At first I wasn't sure I was gonna like it because the mechanics are so simple. It's just pointing and clicking like the genre suggests, obviously. But the narrative was so weirdly interesting that it just kept me hooked until I finally blew up my family in space, believe it or not. Now, let's change gears to weird gameplay mechanics. Next up is Return of the Obra Dinn, a game that doesn't just think outside the box, it throws the box overboard. Get it? On paper, it's just a detective game. You board an abandoned ship, armed only with a notebook and a magical stopwatch. And that lets you see the exact time, or rather the exact moment someone died. But the gameplay is chaotic, and there's no hand-holding. Obra Dinn forces you to observe a scene, try to deduce what happened, and make a logical leap that can feel genius or even ridiculous. And the weirdest part is that there's no traditional narrative structure. So you have to piece the whole story together, backwards and forwards and sideways, and you unravel a web of murder and mutiny. It makes you feel kind of like Sherlock Holmes on acid. Its black and white retro visuals add to this uncanny vibe, making every scene feel like kind of like a fragment from a haunting memory. It's weird and absolutely satisfying. Okay, so now the weirdest visual style. This one has to go to Mullet Madjack, a game that feels like it crawled straight out of a teenage boy's wet dream. You've got a jacked hero with a mullet that screams 80s action star, an influencer in distress, robots, sodas, and of course guns. So many guns. Visually, it's like an all-out assault on your senses. Imagine someone cranked up the saturation, sprinkled in some vaporware aesthetic, and fed the whole thing through a blender. It's supposed to be an ode to OVA animes, whatever that means. Every screen is like bursting with gaudy neon colors and bizarre details. Vending machines that insult you, enemies that explode into confetti, and levels that kind of look like a birthday party gone horribly wrong. And there's the dialogue. It's satirical, it's absurd, and just self-aware enough to feel intentional, maybe? The game skewers consumerism and influencer culture, but not with any kind of groundbreaking nuance. It's more like the kind of social commentary you'd get from a first-year college grad. It's a bit clumsy, sure, but it adds to its charm, really. It's so over the top and unapologetically quirky that you can't help but appreciate its sheer commitment to its weirdness. It took me a bit of time to get into it, but once I figured out that it's not about the speed, it's more about the flow, like the game actually suggests to me, then I found it a bit more charming, and I actually had a lot of fun with it, despite its flaws. It's super fast-paced, and its visuals are definitely something. And now, finally, weird humor, or all-around weird, I guess. The most bizarre thing I've encountered lately is Caves of Quud. At least I think that's how you pronounce it from the trailer that I saw. At first glance, you might think this is a hardcore, text-heavy roguelike, and it is. But dig deeper a bit and you'll find a game absolutely brimming with absurd humor. Here's an example. In Caves of Quud, you can play as a sentient plant with mind control powers, or if you prefer, a mutant goat who wears armor and dual-wielding laser pistols. The game's a blend of deep philosophical fantasy and complete bullshit. You'll encounter NPCs sprouting cryptic wisdom while being attacked by a literal psychic crab. The humor is kind of subtle. It's the kind of weird that makes you stop and go and say, wait, did that really just happen? And it's all kind of woven into a world that really feels alive and surprisingly good and fun, unlike anything else you've ever seen, really. And it's the kind of game that doesn't just dip its toes into RPG depth. It really plunges into a seemingly bottomless well. It's not just a weird game, it's a deep one, crafted for those who crave systems within systems and infinite replayability, and a world that feels like a living, breathing alien thing. If you've ever played Dwarf Fortress or NetHack and wanted something even stranger, Caves of Quud is where you should go next. I might actually do a full game design breakdown of Caves of Quud, but I need to play a little bit more first. I'm on the fence of whether I really love it or not. It's that weird. So that's it for weird-ass indie games. So why do I keep coming back to these weird games? Well, they offer something AAA rarely does nowadays, and that's pure creativity. The games, they experiment and take risks and embrace the strange, and I like that. They don't just break the mold, they really shatter it. From Norco's surreal storytelling to Obra Dinn's mind-bending gameplay to Mullet Madjack's chaos and crazy visuals to Caves of Quud's absurd fantasy. You know, these games remind us that gaming doesn't have to play by the rules. And honestly, that's the kind of energy we need in a medium that's kind of grown a bit stale lately. So, as always, if you enjoyed this type of content, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and hit the bell for more deep dives into the world of game design. Stay weird, my friends, and I'll see you in the next one.